Hey there folks, how you doing today? Happy New Year. Welcome back to the channel. Please bear with any background noise that you may hear throughout this production. We are on location here where life happens, and sometimes there's noise going on in the background that is just unavoidable for the purposes of recording a video for the internet. So I have something pretty special for you folks today, and I'm actually going to turn this into a two-part video to keep it from being half an hour long for those that just don't have the time or patience to sit and listen to me for 30 minutes. For starters, as I always like to show, folks, this is a safe and empty weapon. As you can see there's no magazine, we have an empty chamber, and there's no live ammunition out here in our workspace. Now, for those of you that are familiar with my Unicorn Husbandry series, you will understand that I'm going to avoid saying certain words to avoid having this video flung down the memory hole. As a result, we're just going to refer to this as the platform. So with that in mind, this particular platform does not belong to me. It belongs to a friend of mine who purchased it at a pawn shop. It is a build that somebody put together and then for whatever reason disposed of at the pawn shop. So my friend picked up this entire package at the pawn shop for $1,200, and he was asking me to take a look at it and see what I thought. So real quick, I will give you a basic rundown of what we have here. For starters, we have an Anderson lower, an upper receiver of unknown origin, a 20-inch 1-in-8 twist 5.56 barrel, also of unknown origin, a Yankee Hill quad rail, a bipod of unknown origin, an MFT minimalist buttstock, a very nice rubberized pistol grip of unknown origin, a bolt carrier group of unknown origin, a CMC flat-faced trigger, a POF Tomahawk charging handle, a Seekins Precision ambidextrous safety and magazine release, and a 2-point quick release sling with a UTG QD mount on the front. All of this is topped off by a 6x24x50 Vortex Crossfire 2. So my initial thoughts when my friend told me he picked this up for $1,200 was, he didn't get a bad deal, but he probably paid about full price for it. After carefully researching the parts online, I came to the conclusion that if he had to buy everything here at market price today, $1,200 was not a bad price at all. In fact, to set this rifle up just as it is, you would be really hard-pressed to do it for less than $1,400 or $1,500. So I'm going to say he got a pretty good deal. That is, of course, assuming that the platform runs as intended. So that's where I come in. He asked me if I wanted to do a review on it. I told him, heck yes, I did. And I decided to give it a once-over before I got out to the range. The first thing I noticed is the cam lock quick-release scope mount was installed improperly. Rather than being installed with the cams locked, the levers were switched in the opposite direction, and somebody had attempted to tighten down the screws on the other side, resulting in a scope mount that just really wasn't very tight. Additionally, I noticed that the Vortex Crossfire 2 scope was canted probably about 10 degrees, and that was driving me nuts. Unfortunately, I didn't figure this out until I got out to the range with it, so those adjustments were made on a shooting bench. As a result, the scope might not be completely zero, but it's probably a lot closer to it than it was when I first got a hold of it. And really, that's all that matters. For my range work with this platform, I decided to try two of the very most common types of ammunition readily available for the 5.56. First, we tested it using XM193 55 grain full metal jackets. These are, of course, factory second Lake City, marketed by Winchester, sold at Academy Sports. Once I had the scope settled down, I set a target out at 25 yards just to see if I was on paper, and I really wasn't that far off. It took just a quick adjustment to get the thing zeroed in, and then we jumped out to 100 yards. The first 2 shots I fired at 100 yards were high and left. I made a quick adjustment and had this sucker dialed in pretty good. Now keep in mind, with a 20-inch bull barrel, you ought to be able to get sub-minute of angle groups. The group I shot was just over 1.25 inches, but again, keep in mind this is cheap, run-of-the-mill XM193, bolt-packed, factory second. This is the stuff that just doesn't quite cut the mustard for the military contracts, or at least it used to. Regardless, after that I made a real quick adjustment, bringing it up about 2 inches so that I would have a 200-yard zero. I spent the next 20 or so rounds thumping an 8-inch steel target at 200 yards with every shot. The rifle shot really, really well with the XM193 ammunition.
On the left target, go. Dead center.
From there, I switched over to either some 2020 or 2021 production XM855 green tips, the 62 grain steel core, and I really did not expect to see much of a shift in impact at 100 yards. There was not much of a shift of impact at 100 yards. But there was a major issue that occurred when switching to the 62 grain ammunition. But we're going to save the results of what happened for part 2 of the series on this rifle. In a nutshell, what happened when I switched to the 62 grain XM855 ammunition was, after the first 2 or 3 rounds, it stopped ejecting. The action quit cycling as it was intended to, and as I didn't have a lot of time at the moment to dig deep into it, as well as I didn't have a full set of tools with me out at the range, I decided I was going to have to bring the rifle back to the house to check it out. I would have switched back to the XM193s to see if the problem persisted, but I had shot up the quantity of them that I had taken with me that day. So I was stuck with just the 62 grain XM855s, and I didn't have anything else there to compare the performance with. Aside from having to manually cycle every round, the 62 grain bullets were hitting an 8-inch steel plate at 200 yards with no issue. I moved out to a 300-yard gong and was consistently able to hit it with the 62 grain bullets with this rifle. So I put it back in the bag, brought it back home, and I haven't touched it again for the past week because I was very busy at my day job. So I let the owner know there was an issue with the cycling and told him I was going to look at it and see if I could figure out what it was. We'll save that for the next part. So aside from the cycling issues, which we will get to in part 2, I'll share with you my thoughts on this rifle. Do I like the rifle? Absolutely, I think it's a good one. I think he actually got his money's worth out of this rifle. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Did we have to do some fine tuning just to get it range worthy? Yes, we did. Did we get it range worthy? Maybe next time we will. So on the plus side, the rifle was extremely accurate. For those of you who know me, I am a little bit of a trigger snob, and the trigger on this rifle is absolutely fantastic. I think with some good quality match ammo, probably stepping up to a 69 grain bullet, you could probably get those groups really, really small. But as I said, with bulk military surplus ammo, the groups were very, very good. So now what's the downside? Aside from the cycling issue, which we will cover in part 2 of this video, a couple of things that I just really don't like about the package. For starters, So concerning the Vortex Crossfire scope, I think for a scope in its price range, it's probably one of the better ones on the market. It's got the big old school parallax adjustment here on the front. It is very heavy and it's quite large, but other than that, not a big deal. Things I would have done different on this rifle: already with this 20-inch bull barrel, you have a ton of weight out here on the front of the rifle, making it very, very nose heavy. Probably, with the scope and bipod, probably well over 8 pounds. No, I have not weighed it. I'm just going by what it feels like in the hand, but it is very nose heavy. Add to that this full quad rail, which is kind of a dinosaur these days, and yeah, that's just a little more weight than I want to carry on the front of a gun. If it were me doing it tomorrow, I would purchase a M-LOK rail for the front, probably very similar to this, and that would probably cut maybe a half a pound out on the front of it. And I'd also probably go with a scope that was a little bit lighter weight than this one. As far as the bipod is concerned, this is just a heavy steel framed bipod. I probably would either omit or try to go with something aluminum that's a little bit lighter. Concerning the actual platform, I probably wouldn't go with an Anderson receiver. I've had a couple of them. I really haven't had any problems with them. Just for fit and finish, I would probably go with a PSA receiver. I've had really exceptionally good luck with a few of those. I probably wouldn't have spent the extra money on these nifty aluminum knurled controls. And I probably would have gone with a 2-stage trigger. But otherwise, I think it's a great rifle. I think he did really well. And I think after I make the minor adjustments that I need to make with it, it's going to run like a scalded dog. So let me know what you think of the platform. Drop me a line in the comments down below. Let me know how I did on this one. And until next time, take care. God bless. And I probably would have gone with a 2-stage trigger.